Oh, here we go. Going live. I should probably turn my lights on. Yes, I'm absolutely prepared for all of this. Welcome to today's live stream. I'm Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby. This is Love, Happiness, and Success. And today, oh wait, before I do anything else, let my friends on Instagram into this party. Okay, good deal. Okay, so today we are talking about something that is really important, which is how do you fix a relationship that feels like it might be beyond repair? And this is a tough one. When relationships get to a certain point, they become increasingly toxic. Difficult relational cycles will begin to take over that start to take on a life of their own. I mean, how many people who are with me today have, well, either are in a very difficult patch in their relationship to the point where you're thinking, like, is this gonna work? Or know what I'm talking about. Either you have been in this place with your partner or maybe in a previous relationship where it just starts to feel like, how is this going to get better? I know for me personally, I would say probably 3 or 4 years after my husband and I got married, and this was well before I went to counseling school, we went through a terrible rough patch. I mean, it was honestly a couple of years. There was a lot of distance. We were fighting about so many things. Both of us were feeling really disconnected, and it was really challenging. And I just remember thinking, like, was this a good idea? I mean, it was really hard. So I have a lot of empathy for that experience. I've certainly been there. Who can relate? Who is here with me today that tuned into this podcast because this is going on for you right now? Who's here? Feel free to say hi. And here, I'm going to pull up comments over here so I can see what you guys have to share about the experience of being in a relationship that feels like it is falling apart and you don't know what to do to fix it. Anyone? Was it just me? Hi. Thank you for saying hi. Hello. Hello from Rome. Oh my goodness. Rome must be so beautiful. Who else is here with me today? Move this stuff around so we can all see comments and questions. And does anybody have questions? I know that I've gotten a couple of advanced questions from people who have been, so this has, been on your mind, and I would love to answer them. I've had a couple of questions in advance and questions on social media, so I can just jump right in and start listening to those. So maybe we should do that. And also, just to let you guys know, I don't have a ton of time today. This is going to be a shorter live stream. Oh, hello. And you just listened to the episode that I posted on this subject, and it sounds like you're in deep doo-doo. Oh no. So, and this is the episode that I posted this past Monday, and it was, I believe I just called it How to Fix a Relationship. Here, I'll share the link with you guys in case you want to check it out. But in this episode, I do go into a deep dive around why relationships get to this place. Hang on, let me pull up the link for you. Why relationships get to this place, but also the course of action. Like, if it's going to get better, this is what to do. And I'll tell you straight out that, like, once relationships get past a certain point, because these negative cycles in relationships become very, very pronounced, like, even if both of you try to do things differently, you will still have the same reactions to each other. And that's what makes this really, really hard. So, like, you've been fighting with your partner and you're like, you know what, we need to get back into a better place. And so you start trying, and you're being really, like, loving and kind and really attempting to show your partner that you're invested in change and all this stuff, and you feel like you're on your best behavior, and yet they still react to you in that same old way. Like that's what I'm talking about is because your partner has developed a narrative, a mindset, a filter that is so powerful it actually obstructs the reality of what is happening in the here and now. And there has been so much hurt and mistrust. They have had so many negative experiences with you, and you've had so many negative experiences with them that it's like it starts to not actually matter what you do in the present moment. You really do need to get intervention to start to get this back into a better place, in my experience. And that's what my husband and I did. Honestly, I don't know that we would have made it had we not had somebody able to just kind of cut through all of that with us and help us, I think, really see the reality again, because, again, it obscures reality. So, yeah. Okay. And so, yeah, we had some questions that came in online. I know that I've gotten some, I'm glad that this resonated for you. Thank you. Well, and I'm sorry because, you're living through this, but okay, enough about me. Let me stop blathering, and I want to start answering some of your questions. And so thank you so much for those of you who got in touch with me prior to this on Instagram. Also, if you would like to share a comment or a question, just leave it right in here. And also, I know that this stuff gets so personal. If you want to ask me something that is anonymous, you can use this link. Let me share this with you. I'll put it right here at just my website, growingself.com/dear-Lisa. I'll get it right here in real time, but it won't be with your name or your social handle or anything like that, obviously. So feel free to let me know what's on your mind. Okay, so let's just tackle this first question, which is so amazing. How can I convince my husband that our marriage can't be fixed without counseling? We've tried everything. And this is so frustrating because it sounds like you are aware that you guys are in trouble and that you really need help, and that you do see a path forward of getting professional help, but that your husband, your partner won't participate in that with you. And I don't know if you're here with me now. I hope you are, but would you, here's what I would like to know. When people become polarized in a relationship, they tend to get very clear about how they think and they feel and what they want. And they become to have less visibility into what their partner thinks and feels and wants, and for totally understandable reasons, right? Especially when there's been a lot of this going on. So my question for you is, do you have any insight into why your partner does not want to go to marriage counseling with you? Or have you been able to have a conversation about that? Or is it like you saying, we need to go to marriage counseling, and he's like, no? What is going on? Would you mind sharing a little bit more? If you're here. Okay. I'm not sure. And I know that there's a bit of a delay with this broadcast. But so I will say my key advice here is to put down the shining sword of justice, and that I know that this is what we could. I agree with you. I think that you are right. And this is a relational issue, and anybody being right is not actually working in our favor in these moments. So what I would advise is that you actually get really, really curious about your husband's perspective. Like, why does he want to go to marriage counseling? Why would he not want to talk to somebody like me? And try to understand why it makes sense from his perspective. And I know that that's really hard to do when you've been at odds for each other. And I will also tell you that it is difficult to have an emotionally intimate relationship, an honest and authentic relationship, a conversation even, with somebody when there's been a lot of bad feelings going on. So if there's been a lot of fighting, your husband may not feel emotionally safe enough to tell you what is really going on. Now, I have a couple of things here that you can do that are actionable for you. A number of them, as a matter of fact. Sometimes, in my experience, it is really anxiety provoking for people to go to marriage counseling or therapy because of a lot of sometimes even subconscious fears related to the experience. Am I going to be judged? Am I going to be told that it is all my fault? Are there really difficult and painful things in my past that I have been like white knuckling, and I do not want to stir that pot? It feels very vulnerable to me. I mean, there can be all kinds of stuff here. And you know what? These fears are legitimate, and we can't discount them or blow them off because we are comfortable with an idea. And so the most important thing that you can do is to begin creating emotional safety in your relationship to the degree that you can outside of working with a couples counselor. And for this specific reason, I put together a totally free, no strings attached, 2-part training. Let me see if I can put that link in front of you too. 2-part training around communication that connects. You can go to my website, growingself.com/communication. You can take it by yourself to learn about the negative communication cycles that are very likely taking over your relationship. And you can learn and put into practice immediately a number of things that will help you unilaterally create more emotional safety in your relationship, that will help your partner be able to have the kinds of conversations with you where some of this can even start to come out as and it comes with like a workbook. It's like 2 video trainings with me, but I also included a bonus content thing that specifically speaks to what to do if you want to get help for your relationship and your partner doesn't, where I really go into all of the different things that are probably going on for them and why they make sense, so that you can have more empathy and perspective for their experience and have a conversation with them that validates that. And now I know that it's sort of counterintuitive, because when we have an agenda, my agenda is that I want my husband to go to couples counseling with me. And so how could me listening to his perspective with empathy and validation and understanding what he is saying and like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. How could that possibly help me get what I want? Because that's going all the way over to his side of the table. We're talking about what he wants. That is not what I want. Isn't this just going to reinforce the situation? And I hear that that is a fear. And that is also one of the things that happens when a relationship is in a really serious negative relational cycle, is that people want to fight with each other, and it feels like there is a winner and a loser. But there is different math when it comes to close relationships and the relational system that will build bridges to the center and make your husband much more receptive to understanding your perspective. And what you have to say is going to happen through his feeling heard and understood by you. And spoiler alert, if you ever did get him into marriage counseling, that is literally what would be happening in marriage counseling. The therapist would be helping him tell you how he feels about this whole situation and would be supporting you in your ability to hear it and take it in. So you're kind of getting ahead of the game here. And additionally, in an emotionally safe environment, particularly when it is not a fight, what would also be happening is that they would feel heard and understood. And let's just think about this. Whenever any of us feel heard, validated, understood, I mean, we've just told somebody like, nope, this is how I feel and this is what I want. And somebody says to us, put yourself in the imagination room here. Somebody says, that makes a lot of sense. when I look at it through your perspective, I can really understand why you would feel that way. And thank you so much for sharing your feelings with me so honestly. I really appreciate that. I didn't know that that's how you felt. Just reactions here. Who would like to share about how getting that kind of response, how that would make you feel? Anyone? I know for me personally, when somebody in my personal life has ever said, I can understand why you would feel that way. I would feel the same way if I was in that situation. It feels like sunlight, fresh air, feels like love. How does it make you feel? And we're having like a little bit of a group therapy moment here. Does anybody want to share with me? Okay. Well, it makes me feel good. And it also makes me, oh, yeah, okay, here we go. It helps a lot, is what somebody said. And, a recent lover of marriage counseling right here. Took the right girl to get me going. She's your person. I'm glad. But yeah, it helps a lot. And I know that for me, yep, somebody else said validated. Absolutely. I feel the same way personally. And also, I know that I mean, you're probably the same, but I believe myself to be a generally kind, loving, reasonable person. And the only times that I'm not kind and loving and reasonable is because I feel like I'm being mistreated. I mean, would you agree with that? Because that's actually how most people work, right? Even people who are doing what we perceive to be bad or difficult or annoying things, their internal experience is that, no, I'm justified to feel this way because XYZ is happening out here. So we all get defensive, we can get hostile, all the things. But so whenever you help somebody feel understood and safe with you, they immediately become more receptive. They move into a space where they're now able to understand. So if your partner says, this is how I feel about marriage counseling, and I really, I feel nervous about it. I don't want to be judged. I'm worried about what it would mean for our relationship if we went to marriage counseling. Like, this is what people that are about to get divorced do. Like, there could be all kinds of stuff to say that, for you to be like, thank you so much for sharing with me. And just have that be it. And maybe in the same conversation, maybe the next day, be like, thank you, it really helped me understand your perspective. Would you be open to me sharing mine with you? And then we do not talk into a bunch of facts about how marriage counseling will help. We talk about, I love you so much, and I want more than anything to have a better relationship with you. And I have been feeling afraid about what is going to keep happening between us if we keep going in this direction. I mean, this whole past year, I know it's been awful for both of us. I know it's been awful for you too. I know that you're not happy. You can't possibly be. I know we can do better than this, but I also feel like we've tried everything we know how to do, and it's just not getting better. And we're the type of people that are proactive. When we see a problem coming down the pipeline, we know that we need to do something. And I see you doing that all the time, husband, the way that, the car starts making a weird noise and you're like, I'm going to check that out before like the engine blows up. I mean, you are that kind of person. And find examples and link it back to values that are shared by both of you, what it is that you both want, and also talk about the really positive qualities that your partner has and that you share, and how, doing the right thing in moments like this is the equivalent of all the other things that they do courageously and routinely. They exercise, they've, get up and go to work every day. They do all of these things because that is what adults do in order to have nice lives. And then this is part of that. So I think that it is really an opportunity to reframe it. But in order to do that, again, you need to have created an emotional situation where someone is even a little bit willing to hear what you have to say. And without emotional safety, you will not be able to do that. So I am going to share again this link to the free resource that will help you be able to do what I've just described. Communication, growingself.com/communication. It comes with that free bonus download about really how to handle the situation when your partner doesn't want to come. Okay, let's see. Oh, well, now this is an interesting comment. Let's talk about this. Thank you so much for bringing this up. Does anybody ever feel patronized when someone is overly thankful or receptive about emotions? That is a really interesting perspective. I hadn't considered that before. Well, let's talk about that. I mean, who feels that way? I know for me personally, I really, really value emotional intimacy and an authentic connection. I don't like it when I feel like people are glossing or like telling me what I want to hear. That is not my love language. And I think I would certainly feel bad if somebody was like being crappy about it. You know, if I just shared something that felt really personal to me and then somebody was like, well, thank you so much for telling me how you feel, and like kind of a way that had a vibe that didn't feel good. I would not like that. But are you saying that just generally speaking, when somebody is grateful that you're more authentic with them, that you perceive that negatively? I'd love to hear more because that's really important. Well, and I'll give you a minute. Again, I know that there is a lag here, so I don't want to move too fast, but because also, you know, part of the thing that we're talking about today is how to repair relationships with people. And that when relationships get distressed, there can be negativity that is sort of projected onto what someone is saying or doing. Commonly, there is negativity projected on what people are saying or doing that is not their intent, because there have been a lot of negative experiences, right? And okay, follow-up comment. Okay, that's good. So the follow-up was, I think I need less of being heard and more of somebody responding through actions. And that makes perfect sense to me. And I can understand why you would feel that way, because even if you have a magical moment, there's a conversation in which you feel, okay, this person is getting me, they understand. If that isn't followed through by a change in the behavior that you wish to have be different, it rings hollow. It feels like maybe the conversation itself was insincere, that maybe there was some pacifying or like a little bit of that passive aggressive, like, okay, whatever you say. And that really it's when you see people following through is what feels like it means something to you. And that makes a lot of sense. I think, and I'll say this as a marriage counselor, I think that there are a couple of pieces of this. And if the goal, I mean, we came together today because the topic is, how do you repair relationships that feel like they are broken? There needs to be conversation and alignment that happens before any action can change, or people can change their behaviors. So, for example, if your partner doesn't really understand why a behavior change is very, very important to you and what it means to you on a deep level, they may not be able to have the true understanding that would allow them to have the motivation, have the consistency and also know exactly what to do differently. Like, we need to work through that a little bit. Because without that, if it's just like, I need you to do X, Y, Z, and somebody's like, okay. And then what happens? I mean, like, based on your experience, do they consistently keep following through with that? Or is it like a once or twice kind of thing? And it sort of feels like a Band-Aid and it falls apart. It is because there wasn't a deep enough connection around what that means. And the other thing that is really real in these situations is that two people may have very different perspectives around what needs to be different, or why, or not why the behavior, but different perceptions of the behavior in question. And this goes really deep. I mean, we could talk about this for a whole entire hour, but say in your family of origin, growing up, the love language was acts of service, and you saw your mom and dad doing things, or your parents doing things for each other that would demonstrate love, that were more like day-to-day tasky routines. Somebody would always load the dishwasher. There was never crappling around the living room. Like, sorry, you guys, my voice. It was an expression of love to do these things. And you are partnered with somebody who is crazy about you, who loves you very much, and who was raised by a bunch of dirtbags for whom none of that was important. And they also didn't really develop like the life skills that taught them how to even think in that way. So you're saying, I need you to unload the dishwasher every morning. And what it means in your love language is love, cared for, we're sharing this life together, I'm respected, I'm not alone in this. Like, you have all these associations with whatever that behavior is. That your partner, that is not a thought in their head. They don't understand any of that. They do not have a map of the universe that includes a dishwasher being unloaded with anything other than maybe clean plates, but what, I mean, like, so there can be huge distances between the simplest things in people and relationships. And if you cannot have the kind of communication that connects, that can begin to help people understand, oh, I never really realized that you felt that way when I did X, Y, Z. And I also had no idea that, you know, in your culture of origin growing up, this is what it means. And like, you know, you have values around this. And like, there are all these deep core beliefs and associations related to this behavior. And that helps me understand what this is and why I need to do some work so that I can grow into the kind of person who is able to do that consistently, because I understand that in order for me to have a relationship with you, this needs to be part of your experience. So anyway, that was kind of a long-winded answer, but I wanted to tie it back to the importance of how this works, how this actually works, because I don't want you to be in a situation where you feel very frustrated a lot of the time when you just want to see behavior change and it doesn't happen because of not understanding why. And also perhaps subconsciously not understanding that because of your orientation towards action as opposed to talking, you may be unintentionally pushing away the vehicle, the path of getting what you want. Maybe. Okay, one last question, and then I really do have to go, but this is a super interesting one. Okay, what is a perspective on compromises that should be made to save relationships? Is it worth it, or do we have to accept the person for being who they are and not asking them to change for us? Great question. This is a deep one, and I don't have a lot of time, but this is a both and. So Dr. John Gottman, who is the researcher in couples and family therapy, has done a lot of really good research into relationships, and particularly what differentiates a happy, satisfying, enduring, long-term relationship from one that is not any of those things, right? A relationship that ends. And interestingly, he found that of all the problems that couples face, typically a solid 70% of them are what he characterized as being unsolvable problems, meaning that they are things that are never going to change or be different. And that the happiest, most satisfied, secure, enduring couples were the ones that got really, really good at identifying and focusing on the positive aspects of their relationships and the things that they really loved and admired and appreciated about their partner, and amplified those and made that like the centerpiece of the relationship, so that these unsolvable problems are still happening, but that people feel differently about their presence. Because, the meaning that we make of things has a lot to do with how we feel about those things. And so that is one piece of it. However, I do also think that if there needs to be clarity around like, okay, so these are probably unsolvable problems. This is who this person is. Is there anything on this list that is actually a deal breaker for me? That if this is true and if it is never going to be different, does this change the math in terms of my willingness to keep doing this? And that is absolutely okay, because, it takes a long time to really get to know who people are, particularly if we're rushing into relationships or rushing into marriages. And you may not have had all of the information before you got married or partnered. And now that you do, you may not wish to do this anymore, and that's absolutely okay. But don't think for a second that the presence of unsolvable problems is in itself a deal breaker. Literally, every couple has a lot of those. And the only difference between happy couples and the ones that don't make it is learning how to deal with those really effectively, deal breakers aside. So I hope that perspective helps you. And more information on this week's podcast, you can check out the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast. It came out on Monday. How to fix a relationship that was broken beyond repair. Also, I gave you that free resource, and I do hope that this helps you. It's the communication resource. You can take it totally for free, and I hope that this will help you navigate some of these difficult conversations, but also this free resource will give you visibility into the relational dynamics that are causing the problems that you are experiencing. And I think, for me at least, that knowledge is power. When I have insight into what is really going on, I feel more empowered to fix it. And I hope that that's true for you too. All right, you guys, thank you for hanging out with me today. And I will be back in touch next week on Thursday. We'll do it again. Take care.